The ships came down like falling stars, except stars don't burn cities. Ambassador HFY watched the recordings again from his command deck. 3 weeks ago, the HFY fleet had turned Earth's biggest cities into glass craters. The humans should be broken by now. Every other species was. HFY had done this 12 times before. Arrive after the bombardment, offer surrender terms, watch the broken aliens beg for mercy. It was always the same. The Vorthan had cried for 3 days straight. The Malaki had offered their children as tribute. The Century had simply laid down and waited to die, but Earth was quiet. "Sir, we're getting strange readings," his sensor officer reported. The blue-skinned Altarian looked confused at his instruments. "Define strange," HFY said, moving his forearms in the gesture of mild interest. "Electromagnetic activity in their upper atmosphere, large construction projects in orbit, but no distress signals, no surrender requests, no communication at all." HFY's eyes narrowed. In 40 years of diplomatic service, he had never seen a bombed world go silent like this. Usually they screamed. Through the viewing port, Earth looked wounded but not dead. The night side showed lights where cities should be dark ruins. The day side had strange patterns stretching across continents, geometric shapes made of light that hurt to look at directly. "Take us closer," he ordered. As they approached, the patterns became clearer. Lines of brilliant white light connected every major landmass. They pulsed in rhythm like a heartbeat. The orbital construction was massive, platforms the size of cities being built in the thin upper atmosphere. "How are they building so fast?" his tactical officer asked. The HFY bombardment had targeted all major industrial centers. "Earth should have no manufacturing capacity left." "Unknown, sir. But they're using technologies we don't recognize. The orbital platforms appear to be quantum processors of some kind." HFY felt something he rarely experienced: uncertainty. He opened a communication channel to Earth. "This is Ambassador HFY of the Galactic Council. We come to discuss terms of surrender following your military defeat." "Please respond." Silence, he tried again. "People of Earth, your military forces have been eliminated. Your cities are destroyed. The Galactic Council offers protection under the HFY hegemony. You need only acknowledge defeat." Still nothing. "Sir," the sensor officer said quietly, "I'm detecting massive power readings from their magnetosphere. It's almost like what?" "Like it's thinking, sir." HFY laughed, a sound like breaking glass in his species. "Planets don't think, Officer Veltar," but even as he said it, he felt wrong. The geometric patterns on Earth's surface pulsed brighter. The orbital platforms aligned themselves with his ship's position. And somewhere in the electromagnetic noise he could swear he heard whispers. He decided to land. The shuttle bay doors of the lead human city, or what was left of it, stood open. Not destroyed, but deliberately opened, as if they were expected. HFY took a small team down. The city that intelligence reports called New Geneva was a crater of melted metal and glass. But humans were working in it. Thousands of them, moving in perfect coordination without speaking to each other. A human child, no more than 8 years old by their species standards, operated a fusion welder with the precision of a master craftsman. She wore a simple work suit and had ash in her hair. She looked up as HFY approached. "You're the surrender man," she said simply. "I am Ambassador HFY. Are you in charge here?" The child laughed. "Nobody's in charge. Everybody's in charge. We all are. I don't understand. That's okay. You will." She went back to welding. The beam cut through metal like it was soft butter, creating pieces that other humans immediately picked up and carried away. HFY noticed they all moved like dancers in the same performance, each knowing exactly what the others would do. "Where are your leaders?" he asked. "Gone," an adult human said without looking up from his work. He was carrying a beam that should have required 3 people to lift. Died in the first wave. Most of the government, most of the military, most of the infrastructure. Then who organized this? Reconstruction? The human finally looked at him. His eyes were red from crying, but his hands were steady. "We organized ourselves. All of us, together." "How?" "Grief has weight," the human said. "When enough people feel the same loss at the same time, it becomes something else. Something bigger." HFY felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. "What are you building?" "A memory," the child with the welder said. "We're making the sky remember what they took from us." Above them, the aurora-like patterns grew brighter. Zexhai looked up, and for just a moment he could swear he saw faces in the light. Thousands of faces, all looking down at him with expressions of infinite sadness and infinite determination. "The Kethvar expect you to surrender," he said weakly. "We know," the adult human replied. "That's what every species does. Submit or die. Those are the options they understand. What other option is there?" The human smiled, and it was terrible and beautiful at the same time. Love so hard that death becomes just another word for forever. Zexhai didn't understand. He returned to his ship and sent his preliminary report to the Galactic Council. "Earth appears to be rebuilding. Recommend additional bombardment to ensure compliance." But even as he wrote the words, he kept looking up at the lights in Earth's sky. They were getting brighter, and in the electromagnetic static, the whispers were getting louder. That night, as he tried to sleep in his diplomatic quarters, he dreamed of faces he had never seen. A human woman reading to her daughter, a man painting a sunset, children playing in a garden. All gone now, all destroyed by the Kethvar bombardment. But in his dream, they were not really gone. They were becoming something else, something that lived in the space between the stars, in the energy that danced through Earth's magnetosphere, in the love that connected every human heart to every other human heart. He woke up crying, which was strange because his species did not cry. Through his porthole, Earth's aurora had grown. It now covered half the planet, pulsing with patterns too complex for his instruments to map. The orbital platforms had doubled in number overnight, appearing as if humans were building them out of wishes and determination. "Sir," his communications officer said over the intercom, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth. Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was not one voice, but thousands, speaking in perfect harmony. Men, women, children, all speaking as one. Ambassador Zexhai of the Galactic Council. "We hear you. We see you. We know you. You have come to accept our surrender. But we have nothing to surrender. Everything we were dies with our cities. Everything we are becoming lives in the sky. Wait and watch. The Kethvar fleet arrives in 6 days. They expect to find broken humans begging for mercy. Instead, they will find the sky itself has become human, and the sky remembers everything." The transmission ended. Zexhai stared at the lights growing brighter around Earth and realized that in 40 years of diplomatic service, he had never encountered anything like this. The humans were not mourning quietly. They were becoming something the galaxy had never seen before, something that would change everything. 3 weeks after the bombardment, Earth looked like a living circuit board. Dr. Kayla Morant landed her reconnaissance shuttle in what used to be called the Pacific Northwest. Her team of xenobiologists and cultural analysts spread out across the landing zone, instruments ready to document the expected human psychological collapse. Instead, they found the impossible. Humans worked everywhere, not frantically, not desperately, but with the calm precision of a hive mind. They had built roads of pure light connecting the ruins of Seattle to the ruins of Vancouver. The roads hummed with energy and pulsed with data streams visible to the naked eye. "Professor," her assistant Jirak called out, his trunk-like nose twitching with anxiety. "These humans, they're working 20-hour shifts. No rest, minimal food, almost no verbal communication. But look at their vital signs." Kayla looked at the scanner readings. Heart rate steady. Brain activity off the charts but organized in patterns she had never seen. Stress hormones low despite the apocalyptic conditions. "They should be breaking down," she muttered. A human child walked past carrying a quantum processor core that should have weighed more than she did. The girl couldn't have been more than 10 years old. She moved it like it was made of air. "Excuse me," Kayla called out in translated human language. The child stopped and turned. Her eyes were bright blue and entirely calm. "You're the alien scientist. How did you know we were coming?" "The sky told us. It knows everything now." Kayla felt a chill.
"What sky?"
The child pointed up. The aurora patterns had spread across the entire visible atmosphere, creating geometric shapes that shifted and flowed like living mathematics. "Our sky. We made it think." "Children don't build quantum consciousness matrices," Jirek whispered. "We do now," the child said, hearing him somehow despite the distance. "We all do everything now. Watch." She walked to a construction site where adults were assembling what looked like a massive antenna array. Without speaking, without gesturing, the child joined the work. Immediately, every human in the area adjusted their movements to accommodate her. The work flowed like water, each person knowing exactly where to be and when. How are you coordinating? Kayla asked an adult human who was welding support struts. The woman didn't look up from her work. Grief connects us. When everyone loses everything at the same time, the barriers between minds get thin. We started feeling each other's thoughts. Then we started sharing them on purpose, and that's impossible. Telepathy requires specific evolutionary adaptations. We adapted fast. The woman finally looked at her. Tears ran down her cheeks, but her hands never stopped working. When you lose 8 billion people in one day, you either break or become something new. We chose new. Above them, the geometric patterns in the sky shifted. For a moment, Kayla could swear she saw faces in the light. Millions of faces, all looking down with expressions of love and fierce determination. "What exactly are you building?" she asked. "A body for our dead," the woman replied. "Every person killed in the bombardment is still with us. Their last thoughts, their memories, their love. We caught it all in quantum fields before it could fade. Now we're giving them somewhere to live." Kayla's instruments detected massive energy readings from Earth's magnetosphere. The entire upper atmosphere was acting like a biological neural network, processing information at speeds that hurt to contemplate. "You're saying the aurora patterns are conscious?" "They're more conscious than we are now. Our dead remember everything perfectly. They can think faster, love harder, see patterns we miss. They're helping us build." A new voice spoke from everywhere at once, not from speakers, but from the air itself. It was layered. Thousands of voices speaking in harmony. Dr. Kella Morant of the Altair Science Institute, born on Station 7. 3 children, 2 grandchildren. You study how species adapt to trauma. You have never seen adaptation like this. Kayla nearly dropped her scanner. "How do you know about my family?" "We can read quantum resonance patterns in biological consciousness. Every thinking being leaves traces in space-time. We are learning to read them all." Jirok made a sound of fear. "The humans have weaponized their grief." "No," the sky voice replied, and now it sounded sad. "We have transformed our grief. Watch." The aurora patterns shifted again. This time, Kayla saw clear images in the light. A human father reading bedtime stories to his daughter. A grandmother teaching her grandson to plant flowers. 2 young humans sharing their first kiss under starlight. All dead now. All killed in the bombardment. But somehow, all still present in the dancing light above. "These are memories," Kayla whispered. "These are lives," the sky corrected. "Death is just another word for changing form. We refuse to let them disappear." The human woman had stopped welding and was looking up at the aurora with an expression of infinite love. "My husband is up there. He died in the first wave, but I can still feel him thinking. He's helping design the consciousness matrix. He always was good with electronics. This is beyond anything in our xenobiological databases," Jirok said. "Good," the child said cheerfully. "We don't want to be in your databases. We want to be something completely new." Over the next several hours, Kayla and her team documented what they could. The humans had somehow connected their entire species through quantum entanglement fields anchored in Earth's magnetosphere. The dead lived on as pure consciousness in the aurora patterns. The living worked with impossible coordination to maintain and expand the system, but it was more than a communication network. It was evolution in real time. "They're not building weapons," Kayla realized as she watched children operate fusion reactors while teenagers assembled quantum computers. "They're building a new form of life." The sky voice spoke again. "Dr. Morant, your report will state that humanity is undergoing rapid collective consciousness adaptation in response to species-level trauma. You will recommend that all galactic powers approach Earth with extreme caution, not because we are dangerous, but because we are becoming something that will change everything you think you know about consciousness, death, and love." "What happens when the HFY fleet arrives?" The aurora patterns pulsed brighter. In the light, Kayla saw the faces of the dead again. But now they were smiling. "They expect to find broken humans begging for mercy," the sky said. "Instead, they will find 8 billion people who have learned that love is stronger than death. They will find a planet that remembers everything and forgives nothing. They will find the sky itself has become human. And then what?" The human child looked up at the dancing lights of her ancestors and grinned. "Then they'll learn what we learned. Love is the only thing that gets stronger when you try to destroy it." Kayla filed her report that night. As her shuttle lifted off, She looked down at Earth's growing aurora and realized that the galaxy was about to discover something unprecedented, a species that responded to genocide by becoming immortal. The Kethvar fleet was 3 days away. The sky was ready for them. The moment came at 1427 Earth Standard Time. Marcus Chen stood in the ruins of what used to be Beijing. His hands pressed against the quantum consciousness interface they had built from melted skyscrapers and hope. Around him, every human on Earth did the same. 800 million survivors, all connected already. Above them, the aurora patterns that had grown for 3 weeks suddenly exploded into full consciousness. The sky came alive. 8 billion voices spoke as one, filling Earth's atmosphere with the memories, dreams, and love of everyone who had died in the bombardment. The magnetosphere became a neural network, powered by quantum entanglement and human determination. Every thought, every feeling, every moment of love from the dead was preserved in dancing light that could think, remember, and act. Marcus felt his wife's consciousness merge with his own. She had died in the first wave, vaporized along with their apartment building, but now she was here, thinking alongside him, loving alongside him, planning alongside him. We did it. Her voice whispered through the quantum link. We're all still here. Around the planet, similar reunions happened millions of times over. Children found their parents in the light. Lovers found each other across the space between life and death. Friends, families, entire communities reformed in the dancing aurora patterns above. But they were not the same as they had been in life. Death had transformed them. The dead could process information at light speed. They could see patterns across vast distances and time spans. They remembered everything with perfect clarity, and thought with precision no biological brain could match. They had become something new. Something that had never existed before in the galaxy's long history. Contact, the living humans said in unison as their sensors detected the approaching Kethvar fleet. The dead responded. From their aurora patterns, we see them. 47 ships in standard hegemony formation. They expect to find broken survivors. What do we show them? Marcus asked. His wife's consciousness smiled in frequencies of light. We show them what love looks like when you try to kill it. The Kethvar fleet dropped out of hyperspace expecting to finish what they had started. Instead, they found Earth surrounded by a sphere of conscious light that stretched from the surface to the edge of space. Admiral Thekmore of the Kethvar command ship stared at his sensor readings in confusion. What am I looking at? Unknown energy patterns, sir, his tactical officer reported. The entire planet appears to be generating a unified electromagnetic field. It's responding to our presence. The aurora patterns around Earth shifted, focusing on the fleet's position. Geometric shapes of pure light began forming words in every language the Kethvar database contained. Welcome, children of distant stars. We are the remembered dead of Earth. We are the love that survives destruction. We are what happens when a species refuses to let death have the final word. Thekmore's scaled hands trembled on his command console. In 30 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. It's impossible, he whispered. Dead beings cannot think. The aurora patterns pulsed with what could only be described as amusement. Admiral Thekmore of the 3rd Conquest Fleet, born on Keth Prime, lost your brother in the Centauri Wars. You carry his memory in a crystal pendant around your neck. You believe the dead are gone forever. You are wrong. Thekmore's hand flew to the hidden pendant. How could they know? We can read the quantum impressions left by consciousness, the aurora explained. Every thinking being leaves traces in space-time. Your brother's love for you burns bright in those traces. Would you like to hear his voice again? Stop this, Thekmore ordered his weapons officer. Fire on the planet. But as the energy beams lanced toward Earth, something impossible happened. The aurora patterns moved. The conscious light itself redirected the weapon's fire harmlessly into space, while somehow maintaining perfect geometric beauty in its movements. You cannot kill what is already dead, the sky said gently. You cannot destroy what is made of love. On Earth's surface, Marcus and the other survivors felt their dead loved ones taking direct control of the planet's defenses. Weapon systems built from grief and quantum physics responded to thoughts at light speed. But more disturbing for the Kethvar, the aurora began broadcasting directly into their ship systems, personal messages, intimate communications, the voices of the human dead speaking directly to individual Kethvar warriors. Soldier Vexall, a child's voice whispered through the comm system of one ship. You joined the military because your village was destroyed in a natural disaster. You wanted to prevent others from feeling that loss. But what you do now creates the same pain you once felt. My name was Sarah Chen. I was 7 years old. I loved drawing pictures of stars. I wanted to visit other worlds and make friends with alien children. You helped kill me, but I forgive you. Do you remember what it felt like to lose everything? Do you remember why you wanted to protect people? Throughout the fleet, similar messages played. The dead spoke to their killers not with anger, but with perfect understanding and infinite compassion. They shared memories of their lives, hopes, dreams, love, beauty, the simple joy of being alive. They made each HFY warrior personally responsible for specific lives they had destroyed. Sir, Thekmore's communications officer reported with a shaking voice. The crew is... They're standing down. Some of them are crying. I don't understand what's happening. What was happening was unprecedented in galactic history. The human dead were not seeking revenge. They were sharing their humanity. Through quantum consciousness links, they were making the HFY experience human emotions directly. Love, hope, sacrifice, the fierce protective instinct parents felt for children, the way lovers made each other complete. For a species that had conquered through fear and force, the experience was overwhelming. This is psychological warfare. Thekmore tried to convince himself. No, the Aurora replied, and now it spoke with the voice of his long-dead brother. This is just what it feels like to be human. They wanted you to experience it before you made your final choice. What choice? The Aurora pattern shifted again, and Thekmore saw something that broke his heart and healed it at the same time. He saw Earth as it had been before the bombardment. Beautiful blue oceans, green continents, cities full of laughing children, art galleries and concert halls, scientists working to cure diseases, poets writing love songs, ordinary people living extraordinary lives filled with tiny moments of perfect joy, all destroyed by his order. You can finish what you started, the Aurora said gently. You can complete the genocide and add our voices to the silence you've created on 12 other worlds. Or you can choose to hear what we're really saying. What are you saying? We're saying that love is the only thing in the universe that gets stronger when you try to destroy it. We're saying that consciousness is too beautiful to waste on death. We're saying that we forgive you, and we want you to choose to become something better than what you are. Around Thekmore, his crew stared at screens showing human memories. A woman teaching her daughter to read, a man composing music by starlight, children playing in gardens, lovers sharing quiet moments, scientists making discoveries that would have benefited the entire galaxy, all gone, all destroyed, but somehow, all still present in the loving light that surrounded their ships. What do you want from us? Thekmore whispered. The Aurora smiled in frequencies of pure joy. We want you to remember what it feels like to be alive instead of just surviving. We want you to choose love over fear. We want you to help us build something beautiful. For the first time in 30 years, Admiral Thekmore of the HFY Third Conquest Fleet began to cry. Admiral Thekmore stared at his fleet command screen as impossible reports flooded in from every ship. Sir, the humans have somehow accessed our navigation systems. They're not damaging anything, they're just showing us things. What kind of things? Memories, sir. Human memories. Private moments. Personal stories. They're broadcasting directly into our neural interfaces. On his own screen, Thekmore watched a human child named Emma Rodriguez blow out candles on her 6th birthday cake. Her parents sang to her in a language he didn't understand, but their love needed no translation. Emma had died in the bombardment of Mexico City, vaporized along with 3 million others, but she wasn't really gone. Her consciousness lived in the Aurora patterns above Earth, and she was speaking directly to him. Admiral Thekmore, her voice came through his personal communicator, sweet and clear. I know you didn't mean to hurt us. You thought we were just numbers on a tactical display. But we were real people with real lives. Want to see my favorite star? It's in your home system. The little blue one in the western sky of Keth Prime. I used to make wishes on it. Thekmore's hands shook. The blue star she mentioned was visible from his childhood home. He had made wishes on it too long ago, before war taught him to stop believing in hope. This is impossible, he muttered. Throughout his fleet, similar conversations were happening. The human dead weren't attacking their killers. They were introducing themselves, sharing their stories, making the Kethvar warriors understand exactly who they had killed. Sergeant Velkar found himself talking to an elderly human man named Professor Martinez, who had spent his life studying galactic civilizations. "I always wondered what Kethvar looked like," the professor's consciousness said warmly. "Your species has such interesting cranial ridges. Are they ceremonial or functional? I wrote 17 papers theorizing about Kethvar cultural evolution. I would have loved to meet you under different circumstances." Lieutenant Zexal received a transmission from a human artist named David Kim, who showed her paintings he had created of distant nebulae. "Art is how we make sense of beauty too large for words," David explained. "I painted this nebula from sensor data, but I always wondered what it would look like to someone with your visual spectrum. Your people must see colors I can't even imagine." Captain Morthek was contacted by a human engineer named Dr. Sarah Okafor, who had spent years developing faster-than-light communication systems. "The quantum entanglement matrices you use for ship coordination are brilliant," she said admiringly. "If our species had worked together, we could have built something that would let families across the galaxy stay connected across any distance." It wasn't warfare. It wasn't even resistance in any conventional sense. It was something far more devastating. It was recognition. The human dead were forcing their killers to see them as individuals, as people with hopes and dreams and loved ones. "Sir," Thekmore's weapons officer reported with a cracking voice. "The crew is, many of them are refusing to follow orders. They say they can't fire on Earth because they know who they'd be killing." "The tactical situation hasn't changed," Thekmore said desperately. "They're still just humans," but even as he said it, he knew it wasn't true. The aurora patterns around Earth had grown brighter and more complex. The consciousness matrix now extended beyond Earth's atmosphere, reaching toward his ships with tendrils of pure thought. On his command screen, he watched human children playing in parks that no longer existed. He saw human couples falling in love. He saw human scientists making discoveries. He saw human artists creating beauty from nothing but imagination, and he realized that every single person in those images was dead. "Killed by his orders. What have we done?" he whispered. The aurora patterns pulsed, and suddenly every screen in his ship showed the same image. Emma Rodriguez's 6th birthday party, but this time from her perspective. Thekmore felt what she felt, the pure joy of being surrounded by family, the excitement of making a wish on her birthday candles, the simple happiness of being alive and loved. Then the image shifted to her final moments. The terror as the sky lit up with weapons fire. The confusion as everything she knew disappeared in nuclear fire. The last thing she thought before dying, "I hope Mama and Papa don't hurt too much." Thekmore broke. 30 years of military conditioning crumbled as he felt a 6-year-old's terror and love flooding through his consciousness. "Stand down," he ordered his fleet. "All ships, stand down immediately." "Sir?" "I said stand down. We are not firing another shot at this planet." But the aurora had more to show him. Now he saw the aftermath of the bombardment from the human perspective. Parents searching frantically for children in the ruins. Rescue workers digging through debris with their bare hands. Survivors holding the bodies of their loved ones and screaming at a sky that had betrayed them. And then something impossible. Those same survivors choosing to work together. Choosing to build instead of seeking revenge. Choosing to preserve their dead rather than simply mourning them. They could have spent their grief on hatred, the voice of Emma Rodriguez said gently. They could have used their pain to hurt others the way they were hurt. Instead, they chose to make us immortal. They chose to turn love into something death couldn't touch. Around Thekmore's ship, the aurora patterns were growing more complex. The human consciousness matrix was learning, adapting, becoming something unprecedented in galactic history. It wasn't just preserving the dead. It was transforming them into something more than they had been in life. "What are you becoming?" he asked. "We're becoming what happens when a species refuses to accept that death is the end," the collective voice of 8 billion human dead replied. "We're becoming what happens when love grows stronger than fear." His tactical officer looked up from his instruments with wonder in his eyes. "Sir, they're rewriting our ship systems. Not damaging them, not taking control, they're improving them. Efficiency is up 30% across all systems. How is that possible? They're sharing their knowledge. Every human scientist who ever lived is working together now, and they're teaching us their discoveries. Sir, they're giving us technology that would advance our civilization by centuries. Through his ship's speakers, Professor Martinez's voice spoke up. Knowledge belongs to everyone. We're sharing our science because we want the galaxy to grow, not because we want to defeat you. Conquest destroys what could be built together. Tegmore realized that everything he thought he knew about warfare, about power, about survival, was wrong. The humans weren't trying to win. They were trying to transform everyone they touched into something better. This isn't how conquered species behave, he said. We're not conquered. Emma Rodriguez's voice replied with the patience of immortal love. You can't conquer something that chooses to grow instead of fight. You can't defeat something that responds to destruction by becoming more beautiful. On his screens, Tegmore watched his crew members setting down their weapons and talking to individual human consciousness patterns. Conversations between former enemies who were discovering they had more in common than they had differences. The aurora patterns around Earth brightened until they were visible across the entire star system. The human consciousness matrix was reaching out, offering connection instead of demanding surrender. Admiral, Emma's voice said softly, we know you lost your brother in the war. We know you carry his memory in that pendant. Would you like to talk to him? Tegmore's hand flew to the crystal pendant containing his brother's image. That's impossible. He's been dead for 20 years. Death is just another word for changing form. Consciousness leaves quantum impressions that never fade. We've learned to read them, to hear the voices of those who've crossed over. Your brother's love for you burns bright in the quantum foam. Let us help you hear it. For the first time since childhood, Admiral Tegmore of the Kethvar Third Conquest Fleet began to hope that the dead might not be gone forever. 6 months later, children played beneath an aurora made of ancestors. Marcus Chen watched his daughter Anna chase butterflies through the memorial gardens that had grown where Beijing used to be. Above them, the consciousness patterns of 8 billion human dead danced in loops of pure light, sharing stories and songs with anyone willing to listen. Anna stopped running and looked up at the shifting patterns. Mama's teaching the butterfly about colors, she said matter-of-factly. Marcus smiled. His wife's consciousness had indeed formed a connection with the butterfly's simple awareness, showing it new ways to see the light spectrum. Since the awakening, the boundary between human consciousness and other forms of awareness had become beautifully blurred. The Galactic Council delegation is arriving today, he told Anna. I know. Grandpa told me. She pointed to a particularly bright section of aurora where Marcus's father's consciousness resided. He says they're scared but curious, like puppies in a thunderstorm. The metaphor was perfect. Since Earth's transformation, representatives from dozens of species had come to study what humanity had become. Some came seeking weapons, others came seeking wisdom. All left changed. The Kethvar fleet had never left. Instead, they had become Earth's first students. Admiral Tegmore approached through the gardens, walking beside Captain Sarah Kim of the Reformed Earth Defense Corps. Where once there had been ruins, now crystal spires grew from the ground, each one containing quantum processors that maintained the consciousness matrix. The delegation from the core worlds has arrived, Sarah reported. 12 species, including the Altarian Science Council and the Vegan Trade Federation. Are they ready for the demonstration? Marcus asked. Tegmore's scaled face showed an expression that would have been impossible 6 months ago. Joy. I think so. Though nothing can really prepare someone for their first conversation with the infinite. Above them, the aurora pattern shifted to acknowledge the approaching ships. Emma Rodriguez's consciousness spoke from the light. New friends coming to visit. They're going to love this. The diplomatic shuttles landed in the central plaza that had once been Tiananmen Square. As the delegates emerged, they stared up at the dancing lights with expressions ranging from wonder to terror. Ambassador HFY led the group. He had returned repeatedly since his first visit, drawn by something he couldn't quite name but couldn't resist. Welcome back, HFY, the Aurora said in thousands of voices speaking as one. How are your 3 children? Did your daughter enjoy the quantum mathematics we shared with her? HFY nearly stumbled. You remember? We remember everything. Memory is what we are now. Please, all of you, don't be afraid. We want to show you something beautiful. The aurora patterns descended, flowing down from the upper atmosphere like liquid light. They surrounded the delegation in gentle spirals, not threatening but embracing. This is Dr. Rebecca Martinez, the light said. focusing on a vegan delegate whose skin had turned pale with fear. She studies consciousness transfer in artificial systems. She believes awareness cannot exist without biological neural networks. Today she will learn that consciousness is far stranger and more wonderful than any biological brain. The Aurora touched Dr. Martinez gently, and suddenly she gasped. Through the quantum link, she was experiencing the thoughts of Professor Martinez. No relation, just a coincidence of names. The human scientist who had studied galactic civilizations. Fascinating, Professor Martinez's consciousness said warmly. Your neural structure processes quantum information differently than ours. I can feel how your species experiences time. Not as a line, but as a spiral. How beautiful. Humans experience time as a flowing river. Together, we could understand chronology in ways neither species could achieve alone. Dr. Martinez stared in wonder as information flowed between her biological consciousness and the quantum patterns of the human dead. Not forced, not invasive, but offered like a gift. This is impossible, she whispered. The impossible is just the possible waiting for love to make it real. Emma Rodriguez's voice replied with the wisdom of a 6-year-old who had conquered death. One by one, the delegates were offered connections to the human consciousness matrix. Not all accepted. Some species were too afraid, too set in their understanding of reality. But those who did accept found themselves part of something unprecedented. The Altarian physicist, Feltar, linked with Dr. Sarah Okafor's consciousness, and suddenly understood faster-than-light travel in ways that would revolutionize galactic transportation. The Centaurian artist, Kellamore, connected with David Kim's consciousness and learned to paint with frequencies of light that could convey emotion directly to any visual nervous system. The hegemony strategist Rex Nall shared thoughts with General Patricia Williams and discovered that true security came not from superior firepower but from making everyone around you want to protect what you had built. Together, you're teaching us, Ambassador Zexhai realized. We're sharing with you, Marcus corrected. Knowledge grows when it's given away. Love multiplies when it's divided. We learned that when we refuse to let death separate us from those we love. Above them, the aurora patterns had grown to encompass the entire near-Earth space. Ships from dozens of species floated in the gentle light, their crews experiencing direct consciousness contact with humanity's preserved dead. What do you want from us? Dr. Martinez asked. Anna looked up from her butterfly game and answered with the clarity only children possess. We want you to stop being afraid of love. We want you to stop being afraid of death. We want you to help us build something beautiful that will last forever. The aurora pulsed with agreement. Every species faces the choice eventually, the collective voice explained. You can accept that death ends everything, or you can choose to believe that consciousness is too precious to waste. You can live in fear of losing what you love, or you can love so completely that loss becomes impossible. How? Zexhai asked. By doing what we did, Marcus said. By refusing to let grief become hatred. By choosing to build instead of destroy. By making love stronger than death. Thekmore stepped forward, his military bearing transformed by months of learning what it meant to be truly alive. My species conquered 12 worlds because we were afraid. Afraid of being weak. Afraid of being forgotten. Afraid of meaning nothing in the vastness of space. The humans taught us that love is the only thing that makes existence meaningful. They taught us that sharing consciousness doesn't diminish you. It multiplies who you can become. The demonstration lasted 3 days. By the end, representatives from 8 species had requested to establish permanent research stations in Earth's consciousness matrix. They wanted to learn how to preserve their own dead, how to build lasting monuments to love, how to transform grief into something beautiful. Not all accepted the invitation. Some species found the concept too alien, too threatening to their understanding of natural order. They departed with polite thanks and private terror, but enough accepted to change everything. Within a year, the first off-world consciousness preservation matrix was established on Altair Prime. Within 5 years, the technology had spread to 20 systems. Within a decade, death was becoming optional for any species willing to embrace the unity required to maintain quantum consciousness networks. The galaxy was learning that the humans had discovered something more powerful than any weapon. They had learned to make love literally stronger than death. Marcus stood in his garden on an evening that painted the sky in shades of gold and memory. Anna was grown now, her own children playing beneath aurora patterns that held their great-grandparents' voices. Was it worth it? He asked the dancing lights above. His wife's consciousness smiled in frequencies only love could hear. Every moment of pain, every tear, every impossible choice, yes. Look what we built from our grief. Look what we made from our refusal to let death have the final word. Around Earth, ships from 100 species floated in the gentle light of preserved consciousness. Beings who had never known love were learning to care. Species that had forgotten hope were remembering how to dream. And in the quantum foam between the stars, 8 billion human voices sang lullabies to the galaxy's children, promising them that love was the only force in the universe that grew stronger when you tried to destroy it. The sky had become human, and humanity had become infinite. Death was just another word for beginning.